Australians have never been short of fresh ideas for the art and science of innovation, as the Michael Crouch Innovation Centre here right beside the UNSW Business School shows. But the actual psychology of innovation is something completely different. It's been studied by Associate Professor Joel Pearson, who's a director of the UNSW Science of Innovation Lab. Joel, it's great you could join us here today.
My pleasure.
So what does the lab actually do?
So the whole mission of the lab is to understand innovation, understand startups, using psychology and neuroscience, or cognitive neuroscience. So a lot of people are interested in why some startups work, some fail, why some people are resilient, some not. And the only way to really understand all these things and more is to look at psychology, look at behavior, and look at neuroscience, how the brain works, how the brain deals with things like resilience and failure and creativity and all kinds of other great topics.
But how can you actually apply psychology to an innovative startup where surely it's just somebody's bright idea?
So we can test the individual, we can figure out why some people are resilient to failure, why some people, when they get told a no, they go, okay, give up. Other people go, they just keep on trying. Is there something different about their personality, something different about their brains? We don't know, right? Why are some people more creative? Why do some people dig down deep and look at first principles and rethink the way the world works? We don't know why, okay? So it's a different way of thinking about innovation. Rather than just looking at process, curriculum or anything like that, we're looking at individuals, but also teams. How do people interact?
But equally, isn't the answer you're going to get from different people going to be different according to who they're addressing? If they talk to somebody in a lab coat, they'll talk about the technology behind their innovation. If they talk to a banker, then they're going to be talking about how successful it'll be financially. How do you actually get to how creative they are?
Absolutely. So that's the big problem with surveys, with interviews. And so we're building new technologies and new measurement techniques to try and get around or step around these subjective biases, right? So that's why we're using things like illusions. There's thousands of different illusions we can use, perceptual or cognitive, to build new techniques or new technologies to measure aspects of the mind more directly. So we can measure things without asking people directly their opinion about something.
And how do you do that? How do you measure that?
So we literally will have someone come into the lab, or we go into the office and meet them, and they put on VR goggles or perhaps look at a laptop, and we'd show them a particular cognitive test or an illusion, and we'd ask them questions about that. And that can tell us indirectly about them, about their mind, about their brain, right? So we're stepping around that subjective nature of a survey or of an interview.
And is there a good technique you can teach the managers of those organisations how to be resilient, how to actually deal with the fact they're dealing with a known unknown and just get on with it?
Yeah, so we're working around that. So really the methodology we have is to measure something scientifically, accurately and reliably. Once we can measure it, we can understand the mechanism, how does it work, and then we can build techniques to effectively change it, or products to boost leadership, to boost resilience. So it's measure, understand, and then effectively change or boost.
And have you got any of those products that are there now that you can directly teach people? You can say, try these steps.
So typically that one in particular would be putting on a VR headset and making particular decisions while we, in a very sneaky way, incept emotional stimuli into your brain. Sounds a little scary, but we have a perceptual way of showing you emotional images that you're unconscious of. And then we can measure how your brain uses that unconscious emotion to help you make better decisions.
It sounds as if people are trying to hack their brains to actually think in a different way, the classic biohacking. Does that mean that traditional science is being left behind?
In a sense it is. So you have this amazing phenomenon of biohacking where someone will do an experiment at home, they'll blog about it immediately, or they'll do a YouTube video the day after, and it spreads and it spreads. And so you have thousands and thousands of people trying that same thing over and again, in a couple of days. You compare that to traditional science in a university where you first got to get some pilot data, apply for a grant, you're a year or two in, do the research, another year. We're talking years and years to publication. This is two very different worlds. So here at UNSW, at the new Science of Innovation Lab, we're trying to meld those together. So the way we do that is something called agile science, where we try and do rapid prototyping, a minimum viable experiment, get rapid feedback on a question, and do that in a short, lean way. So much like lean startup.
And it sounds as if really that the pace of change is accelerating. Traditionally, the digital innovative startups were the disruptors. Now they're the new normal. So can we say that innovation really is the new normal and we should expect much more of it?
I think we can. It really is becoming that business as normal now has to involve innovation. It's not just companies are playing a game and trying to win at the game. The rules of the game, or even the games themselves, are just changing now. So companies have to go back to the drawing board and think about fundamentally what do they do, right? Go back to those first principles thinking. What do they do and why? And then go out with creative thinking and think of new ways to do this.
So it's great, you've got loads of innovative ideas, but there seems to be a huge gap between innovation and entrepreneurship, of having a great idea and actually making it make money. Have you learned anything about those people and those ideas that are great and are innovative, but whether they're actually going to work in practice?
Yeah, so we're launching a new program here with the startups on campus. The idea is to do a test batch where we're going to measure things about their personality, about their cognition, and about their brain function. And then over the coming years, we're going to follow through and see if there are interesting predictors that predict startup success, both on the teams, the team dynamics, but also the individuals and their brains and cognition.
And so many people who think that they've got a great innovative idea that they think is actually going to work as a startup are going to want to know, how can they actually almost mold their mind to work in that innovative, creative way and to be perceived really well? Are there any tips you can give them?
Oh, there's lots of tips. So one I often give is for pitching, to not just practice your pitch by yourself or amongst your friends or family. You want to be in the physiology. When you go to give a live pitch in front of an important audience, your whole physiology changes. Your heart's going fast, you're sweating, you think differently, time perception gets warped. So you want to actually practice under those circumstances. And there's all kinds of different ways of hacking that. One I suggest, if you're scared of heights, get up high, practice up high. If you're scared of spiders, maybe get a spider. But what you want to do is mimic that physiology. So that's around pitching an idea. Other things are around resilience. Practice being resilient to rejection. So one thing you could do, easy thing to do at home or every day, go and ask for a free coffee. They say no, small rejection. Up the ante from day to day and just notice how you feel. Maybe it hurts at first, you do it 3 or 4 times, no big deal. You're building that muscle, you're becoming more and more resilient to failure. So they're 2 sort of take-homes that people could use.
And how about take-homes for corporates?
Yeah, so that's a really interesting one that I get asked a lot. So one recommendation I give is for the companies to really think about what it is they do. Don't just think if they're a finance company, that's what they've always done and they always just do that. Go back to those first principles and try and redefine what they want to be about and what they want to do. And sometimes when you go through that process, you get surprising answers. The whole direction of a company can change, it can grow, it can become much, much broader. And that can make the difference between a company dying out or really pivoting or moving to a new direction and getting a whole new lease in life.
And that, of course, is exactly what we want. But there are so many companies now coming up with so many different innovative ideas. Where can we see this ending? Are we eventually going to get to a stage in 10 or 20 years where suddenly everything calms down again? Everything that can be digitally disrupted has been, and we now know what is the new normal. Is there an end point to this game?
I don't think it's just about digital, so I don't think there's a clear end point. So you have the exponential curves of digital interruption, innovation. We're going to have biological and neuroscience exponential curves coming in a bit later. We're having AI curves, if you like, which is linked to digital. So you have these multiple exponential functions which are all going to come together, but they're delayed over time. So we're really going to see disruptions from different directions. So I don't think there is an endpoint. Yeah.
Well, in that case, it's a very exciting future. Joel, it's been great talking to you.
My
Thank
pleasure.
you.
My pleasure.